going to talk about the social hierarchy in Brazil, the racist attitude there. It all starts with colonialism, and basically slavery existed there, and it's sort of just this racist attitude that African descendants are beneath the whites that live there. When slavery was abolished in the 1880s, I'm not quite sure if there was the same level of segregation as there was in the U.S. with Jim Crow laws. There was a law that segregated elementary school kids, so to prevent contamination of diseases, which is pretty sketchy. I think that a main difference between the U.S. and Brazil, the Civil Rights Act in the U.S. sort of fought against the racist attitudes that existed in segregation, and I don't think that's happened at the same level in Brazil. So that's sort of just a continuing problem there. These are just things that have gotten in the way of helping to solve the problem of the social hierarchy. Just from an article I got, foreign deaths just distracted politicians from their issues at home. And privatization has, a lot of land has been given to the Caucasian population. The land has not been given it hasn't been distributed evenly, and African descendants, they just haven't been given the same opportunities. And that's sort of the big deal is that I'm going to get into is that blacks don't have the same opportunities in Brazil as whites. This is just a basic table of poverty and indigence, and 45% of Brazil's population is of African descent, but only 6% say that they are, and I'll get into that later. And as you can see, it's not very balanced at all. Just that, it's pretty easy to understand. There are a lot of people who don't consider themselves African descent because there's so many different mixes. African descendants, when they admit they try to deny their African heritage because those that accept it are discriminated against, and those that try to deny it and become more white. It's kind of hard to explain because you can't you can't change the color of your skin, but if you don't accept your black heritage, then you're more accepted. This goes into just the opportunities that African Americans they don't have the same educational opportunities, and because more of them are in poverty, they join the labor market earlier to make a living. This is just the hierarchy of income. Or African Americans that do stay in school are put on different curriculums, and there's sort of just this attitude that blacks are less intelligent, and so they have a different curriculum for this. I read an article about someone who wanted to be a pharmacist, and they were put in a completely different school than just other white people or students. And that is, they're trying to start quotas.
So they're trying to end this segregation.
Yeah, but they really aren't that involved that much because most of the politicians are white, so it's not really they aren't really concerned, and they're sort of like in their own world. That's sort of the idea I got from my articles, is that they really aren't that concerned, but they've started to talk about quotas. This is just a denial thing, and the darker your skin is there, the more discrimination you'll feel, and MV Bill's just a rapper from Favela, and I thought this was just an interesting perspective because we've been reading a lot of like scholarly articles, and this is someone who's just like from the like city and just from Brazil, just a regular guy. This is just like less than 5% of all public officials are black, and a lot of African Americans aren't on TV, just they're not in the public eye. They're sort of, it's like, there's just like this feeling that if you're black, you're not accepted, and so that's sort of a problem. I was sort of wanted to talk about the natives that lived there before colonizers came, and there's sort of a land issue there, because when I talked about privatization earlier, a lot of their land was given to farmers and just one of their arguments is that a lot of their land that isn't used in the Amazon, which is probably used just for like timber companies, and so they've been fighting for land, and that's sort of just like their issue, sort of. I'm not really sure where they are in the social hierarchy, but they're probably, like, based on what MV Bill said, they're probably somewhere in the middle, because darker your skin is, the more discrimination you get. And yeah, that's just like the land issue of, that's just deforestation, but yeah, that's basically it, I think. Any questions or?